Yep. All right. So we'll open up the public hearing. Which one do we want to do first? Let's do Ted's first. The lack of anything better. So we have an application from Ted Terrio, who I believe is associated with Water's Edge, and he has submitted a. Are we on camera? Is the camera yet? Submitted a conditional use permit application to have a subdivision at the intersection of Fremont and Route 113. It's a minor subdivision. It's a little complicated because it's part of a greater lot that's been separated out. So it's a little complex, but what Ted wants to do is fairly straightforward. He wants to separate out one piece and make it clear so there's two buildable lots. Ted, you want to describe your project for the public, and then anybody has any questions, shoot.
Sure. Basically, it was I think it was the remainder of a 27-acre lot, or 27-acre lot that we bought, and we took and sold 13 acres to an abutter, and that left us with, I'll say 15 acres there, and that was, we knew that it was tight as far as some of the setbacks for resource protection, but we knew we could get it as one lot, and then when I was doing the calculations on setbacks and where things were in relationship to roads and stuff like that, we figured that we were another house in there, and that's about all that time that we're going to get, because the other side is wetlands right from the road, and there's nothing more that we could do on that Fremont side, all the way from where the subdivision line wants to be all the way there. It's just all kind of wet. When we get this one spot there, it's the other one, so we're looking to see, I know it's kind of usually have to wait 5 years, I think that's what I was like that, but we were hoping that we could kind of catch this thing off target.
Any questions about Mr. Terrio's project?
I went to the sidewalk. Bob was there, Matt was there, Dwight was there. Who else?
Matt Sanborn.
Oh, Matt Sanborn, yeah. Yep.
Anything you saw on the sidewalk that gave you cause for concern?
It is as he describes it. There were things that were strange to me, but not illegal, so. Strange, I guess, okay.
Wes, has he looked at the proposed location? Is he able, with all the setbacks, to put in a house lot there?
I probably visited the place 4 or 5 times back in April. I walked the land a bit, probably back 400 feet into the wet season. The ground table is fairly high anyhow, but there's adequate land there.
So, hearing no discussion or questions from the public, why don't we close the public hearing of this particular application, and most likely after the next public hearing we'll talk a little bit more to you about it, but the public hearing aspect is now closed at 7:09. So we have another public hearing tonight. It's on a slightly different project. It's a subdivision proposal by an individual named Jamie McDonald. He owns some property just across the road, and he has requested a minor subdivision, 4 lot,
Yes.
4 lot minor subdivision. This one too has some complexities. If everybody remembers, this is the piece of property that somebody built the house on due to some confusion with the CMP polling numbers, and in some ways, JV's subdivision request is a request to work out that confusion with the builder. We had a site walk on Monday. Same folks attended. Jamie, do you want to add anything to your?
No, I guess not. I wasn't planning, like you said, of proposing this subdivision. There were some wrinkles where I already have a land lease to a solar company and a restriction in my leases that I can't subdivide it. But they were willing to work with me as long as they approve the sketch that they with the lines are. You don't remember.
Any members of the public have any questions for Mr. McDonald?
Do we have a sketch plan of this?
We do.
I did notice, David, that it looked like that driveway at that house that's been there for a very long time.
There's another sketch of it as well. The driveway looked like it had been there for a long time.
Pre-existing house.
Anybody have knowledge of whether that there used to be a tote road or any sort of landing there before it was cleared?
I don't remember. I know we looked at it quite a bit. There may have been an entrance for sure. That's for sure. Like a sophomore opening.
Yeah.
Maybe 10 feet wide, something like that.
The state didn't have a cutout there, so,
That's right. Yeah, there was no culvert there.
or a cutout, normally if there's a driveway, they'll put a little.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I have questions about this.
As a member of the public or a member of the board?
Member of the board.
So we can close the public hearing and then go to the consideration of the application. Well, just because then we get notice of it, that's the only thing.
Oh, okay, sure.
Any member of the public? Okay, so let's close the McDonald public hearing at 7:14. Like to say that's all we have to do, but we have to not talk about it. So, now we're going to start the regular planning board meeting for July 9th, 2020. For folks in the room, the meeting's being recorded, so just make sure your language is appropriate for PG-13. The first thing that we typically do in a planning board meeting is a consideration of the minutes. The secretary sent out an email with the proposed minutes from the last meeting. I thought they were in order.
Would you like a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting as written and distributed?
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Yeah, I hear a second. All right, all those in favor of approving? Excellent. So we have approved minutes. We'll get those to Danielle and get those posted on the web. A few preliminary matters before we talk about the subdivisions. I think all the board saw that I signed on behalf of the board, I signed the conditional use permit for the Nature's Wilderness. They signed in return, and then I think I distributed the final signed copy to everybody. My understanding is the first weekend they were open, there were some violations. Wes, did you write up some violations for that July 4th weekend?
Yes, there was a violation written up and a fine paid, and I gave copies to the select meeting Tuesday night, so they're all over the line.
And the violation was that they conducted the fireworks display without the adequate notice. That was
The violation was a time violation, that they did not meet the 10-day time violation.
right.
And I went ahead and wrote the violation and charged the fine of $100, which is basically not my role, but because the time violation was an intangible item, we can't turn back time and correct it. It was over and done with. So violations paid, so it's done.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we'd appreciate you letting us know if there's any violations on the property. Our understanding is that they're going to come back to the board at some juncture for phase 2. And, any violations that occur during phase 1 obviously plays into the decision for whether or not phase 2 should be approved and for what conditions. So we appreciate it if you just let us know whether there's a violation. And I guess I was a little surprised that they opened up without, they don't have all the safety stuff in place, do they?
They went through the preparation, they had their fire out there, I quizzed Gary, had me targeted up the upwards, I went through it all and worked it. He had firemen from Standish, firemen from Sebago to cover, and he covered all bases.
Now, I guess I mean like the fence around the pool and the drawings have all kinds of safety features. And
I've had further discussions about the pool, he has a fence, company arranged to put in it with a 2-week schedule. So I said, drive this on 4-foot stakes and put a rope around there so at least it borders it and there's a warning sign. We did that. And so over the time, since the fence company couldn't get in there, we tried to cover that base pretty well.
okay. I mean, I've said this many times to the folks on the board that we're not the enforcement arm, so, it's up to you and the selectmen, obviously, but we just want to know because I don't think there's any way it can't play into the consideration of phase 2.
Could I show you a picture of the sign that was put up?
I did actually see the sign, and it certainly didn't meet my expectation of public notice, but
I just would like to, in the record, that it was, you couldn't see it driving by in the car.
yeah, it looked like a 16 by 16 Sharpie pen written sign, black Sharpie on white paper. But if that's what the selectman thinks appropriate, then so be it. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be an interesting ride for you guys. And us eventually. Other stuff, preliminary matters, is there anything else? Yes.
Ask Wes one question. Wes, do you know if Nature's Wilderness has put up the boundary markers on all the trails to prevent their guests from crossing out of Nature's Wilderness property onto abutting properties?
The only thing I can put on that is it's being worked on. Gary has intended to make an appointment with me, sit down and have a hit list or a checklist of things that have done, need to be done, and therefore there's a direction will be going in, I can check on it, and And I know there's several things that I have to check on anyhow, particularly the moving and changing of the constructors and changing the use, they have to be re-permitted. So there's a lot of paperwork yet to be done.
Thank you.
Was my impression that they needed a town permit before they could get a state permit? Did they get a state permit?
I don't know, were they, you know if they were fully permitted yet?
Acoustic terrible, I have a hearing aid on this, so I'm
Sure. Well, maybe even ask. Do you know if they're fully permitted to operate?
all the structures there have been permitted, but particularly, I permitted about 6 or 7 sheds that have been moved, and they are now been renovated, and they're used to, have in what do you call it, planting area. Other than that, everything else is basically in place and permitted.
Do they need some sort of state permit to operate?
Say that again?
Is there a state permit that they need?
Yes, there is a state camping permit. I haven't looked into it, but I know early on, when they inquired about it, the state said, we don't issue a state license permit until the town sells that condition use. Therefore, the state is knowledgeable that it's everything they'll give the town, they can go ahead and get their licensing at that time. So it's either done or it's in the process right now. I think it's done. I haven't point blank asked the question for example.
I mean, these just seem like kind of important stuff, right? I mean, like, they're operating.
Some of this stuff, I think we get a sign here. Some of the stuff should have been checked on before to get us a use permit to sign too.
Well, no, because like the fence around the pool, we're not going to wait for that to be in place before we do a permit. I mean, the permit's granted as it is on the drawings, and it's up to the applicant to complete the project sufficient to open. And I don't think it's upon us to like require them to finish it before the permit's granted. Just like if we permit an auto dealership or something, the auto dealership doesn't exist until we get a permit, and then they go build the auto dealership. So I mean, look, I think, I don't know if I speak for the board or not, it's just super frustrating how much work we went through, and then they just opened up the next day. It just is frustrating that and that they know we needed a fireworks display. I mean, I sent an email to Gary a day or two before the fireworks display saying, please don't do it, it's in violation. And they went ahead and did it. It's frustrating, but, yeah.
As far as fencing around the pool, I dealt with some pools over in Cornish, and a couple of years ago, I did some search on the internet. I couldn't find anything that's law about that. I think it's more of an insurance company issue, having a fence around a pool than a law.
Requirement of the
It's in the CUP, so it really doesn't matter if it's in Fran. They're supposed to have it. It's a safety device. But I guess I'm done saying my piece. You know, it's in your hands now, but I will say we're frustrated. And continued non-compliance is going to play into stage 2. And I would ask as strongly as I can that you, as the enforcement folks, make sure that you don't do anything that looks like it's beyond stage 1 without a permit. Because as the CUP says, you cannot do anything beyond what's in phase 1. You can't build roads, you can't put buildings in, you can't do anything. So, and they're going to do it. The history tells us the future. So, I'll move on. I'm just frustrated. Anything else preliminarily talk about before we go into the applications?
I'll get in trouble if I do. I'll say something I shouldn't.
Okay. I always give you an opportunity to say things you shouldn't.
Thank you.
So, we've got these two subdivisions. I honestly don't remember us actually approving the subdivision while I've been on the board. I think there was a subdivision on Carl Burnell that we approved. That was the most recent one. Firefly was the one before that. I think there was one other before Firefly and the other one before my time.
Which is dissolved together.
I was here for the dissolving of that one too. So I'm not totally sure how to do this. We have the subdivision ordinance. We have an application. And my thought was to walk through the ordinance and let it tell us what to do. That sound fair? So, what's the date on here? 2001?
2001.
Okay, that's what I got too. So, we don't do a lot of subdivisions, so if I'm sweating, it's not because I'm nervous, it's because this mask is making me sweat. All right, so we got definitions. We got the pre-application meeting. I think we did that with both you guys. Article 6 is a minor subdivision. So there's a procedure in here. Within 6 months after an on-site inspection, the applicant shall submit an application for approval for a final plan. There needs to be a sketch plan, and then any inclusion of any recommendations by the board. I don't think we've really recommended anything so far. All applications shall be accompanied by a non-refundable fee,
$300.
$300 per acre. Have you guys paid that yet, before you?
That's the first I've heard that.
Okay. In addition, the applicant shall pay a fee of $300.
It's crossed out on my book, it says, and I don't know which town meeting it would be, or $10,000 per lot.
We went through that, it is the $10,000.
$10,000 per lot.
Wait, somebody goes, be patient. $10,000 per lot, whichever is greater to be deposited in a special account designated for that subdivision application, which shall be used by the board to hire specialists. Independent consulting services when necessary. And so far, I haven't seen anything that would require that in these applications. The board shall continue to notify the applicant if you draw down on the account, you may have to put more in. There may be a cost to advertising. Shall be required to cover the cost of advertising. The applicant shall attend a meeting, present a final plan. At the meeting, the application for the final plan approval of minor subdivision, the board shall issue a dated receipt to the applicant, notify all the abutters that the application has been submitted, notify the clerk and reviewing authority if the subdivision abuts or crosses municipal boundary. So we haven't done a receipt to the applicant, and the applicant hasn't submitted any funds yet. Let's see if we meet those funds as we go through this.
Well, don't we start out, there is a non-refundable application fee?
Yeah. We'll come back to that.
Okay. The other is stuff that we probably don't have to use.
Within 30 days of receipt of the final application, decide whether the application is complete, notify the applicant in writing of this determination. If the application is not complete, then the board shall notify what material is necessary. Upon determination of the complete application, the board will notify the applicant of that determination. Whether to hold a public hearing on the final application. If the board decides to hold a public hearing, it shall hold within 30 days of receiving the complete application. Shall publish the notice these 2 times, date the first publication at least 7 days prior to the hearing. Copy of the notice shall be mailed to the applicant in advance. Within 30 days from the public hearing, the board makes findings of fact and conclusions relative to the criteria in 30 MRSA 4404 and standards in Article 11. If the board finds all criteria and standards have been met, it shall approve the final plan. If any of the criteria are not met, either deny the application or approve with conditions to ensure all the criteria and standards are met. Board shall give written notice of its findings and conclusions. Alright, so we've got some substantial compliance with that, but not exact compliance. I think that's the best way to put it. We've had a public hearing, we've had a notice, we had a sidewalk. We let everybody know, the public is in the paper well before 7 days. So the only 2 things that are really out there are the per acre fee and possibly the fund and the issue, the receipt to the applicant.
You did the sketch plan fee?
Do we have a space plan?
Well, so what kind of fees, let's start with that, what kind of fees can you pay if any?
$150?
150, Wes, what was the 150 for?
That, the 150 is the basic, pay to, issue the application for the planning board.
For a CUP? For a conditional use permit? Versus a subdivision?
It's a one-time fee.
Okay. So, has submission, it's 4 pages, right, Rob?
It was more than that, but somebody might have condensed that to stuff was more relevant.
Should I have it say? Do you have it?
Yep.
So we have a sketch plan here.
I don't see anything about $150 in here. So,
Well, I think what Wes did is he accepted the 150 for the standard conditional use permit submission.
we should probably apply that to the application fee of $300.
That's my thought as well, yeah, that's my thought as well. I have it back down. Okay. So we have an application, so now we have to consider whether or not it's complete, is that really the next step?
So, yes, I wonder if we're looking at some votes on what the meaning of complete is, or what we waive maybe. Because the two subdivisions that I've been involved with have involved a lot of survey work and topographical work,
Yeah.
and I don't know if that's needed here, but I'd rather have it be a vote of the board that says it's not needed.
Yeah, no, I agree. Let's talk about the submission. So it says submissions in 6.3, it says the final plan application shall consist of an application form, which we have from both applicants, a location map, which I believe we have from both applicants, location map shall be drawn on the size. So typically we have Mylars for this, right? It's typically a Mylar. Existing subdivisions, proximity of the proposed subdivisions, there's none. Location and names of existing and proposed streets. I believe both applications have that information. Boundaries and designations of zoning districts. Are these all in the same, let's talk about tenants first.
Yes, it's rural, it's all rural.
It's all rural, so there's no, okay. An outline of the proposed subdivision, any remaining portion for the owner's property is planned. The defined plan covers only a portion of the entire property. So this plan covers the entirety of Ted's property. The final plan, the subdivision plan for a minor subdivision shall consist of two reproducible, stable-based transparencies, one to be recorded in the registry of deeds, the other to be filed at the municipal office, and 3 copies of one or more maps or drawings to scale not more than 100 feet each inch. The reproducible transparency shall be embossed with the seal of the individual responsible for the preparation of the plan. Plans for the subdivision containing more than 100 acres may be drawn at a scale of not more than 200 feet to an inch. Plans can't be bigger than 2 feet by 3 feet. They have to have a margin, place that we can endorse it. All right, so these are typically called Mylars. You can clear, you can see the information on them. But it doesn't have to be Mylar, it can be any transparency. So that's one thing we don't have, right? For either one of you. A little box there.
If I could say something about that.
Yeah.
Usually, I've done a couple of these, and sometimes the mileage like that, originally, they just want to see what you got on paper. And once you get approved, then you spend the money, because otherwise, if you go ahead and have a survey company come in, at, 2, 3, 4 grand, to make all that stuff, and then you get shot down, it's in the way.
Yeah.
Usually, once you're approved, then you go get your survey done, file then you register.
Because both you guys are going to have to get professional surveys in order to ever get to sell the property. Okay, well, let's forge ahead and deal with all these issues at once, I guess. What do you want to talk about now?
That's not good.
Yeah.
curious as to the basis of that $300 per acre. Does that start with major subdivisions or minor subdivisions?
That's mine, yeah, mine.
So, you know, you're talking, someone's got a minor subdivision and they're breaking up a couple hundred acre lots, it turns into some real money here.
Well, a minor subdivision can't be more than 6, 5. Yeah, once you get into a major subdivision, there's different rules.
But even the size of the parcel is not, you know, you're 100 acres, it's 50, 80, for example, 300 acre, that's not a big figure, that's a big one.
Right,
It doesn't matter if it's 1 lot, 2 lots, 3 lots, 4 lots, that's the money.
right.
When you talk about tree growth, you
Right,
right,
and so it's, by the time I'm done, this $300 thing stood on this, looking at the level trying to subdivide, that plus tree growth, like, I'm off 300.
it's real financial stuff.
But is that the refundable portion? That's not, that's a normal.
Yeah, that's a non-refundable portion. I mean, this is online, if you guys read it before,
No, I was under the impression that, well, we got turned out.
Right.
A minor subdivision is pretty simple. And this is the first go around too, I've done this in the past where other towns, it's a sketch. You get your rules, and you go get the survey, and then it's very quick peek, it's nothing significant. But, it's not pretty
It's
significant. Yeah, usually you very simple.
You lawyer draws straight down 2 weeks from now,
Yeah.
here you go.
Is the deed description correct and all?
yeah, well, I mean, we don't write the ordinance.
No, I think it's, I mean, by the sound of it, it sounds like, I mean, I've dealt with the city of Portland, and the city of Portland is, I would consider that an extreme for sure. And I have never heard something like this.
Yeah. All right, well, let's keep going through. I mean, there's some things we can waive, there's some things we can't, so.
I misspoke. A major subdivision is more than 4 lots.
Application requirements, D. The application for approval of a minor subdivision shall include the following information: proposed name of the subdivision, verification of the title, standard boundary survey, copy of the most recent recorded deed, copy of any deed restrictions, indication of type of sewage disposal to be used. Type of water system, so like what your water is going to be. Number of acres in the subdivision, location of rivers, contour line, zoning district, existing streets, what the width and location of any new streets, any open spaces, any space dedicated to public use, in a flood zone, hydrological assessment, just using the standard Maine Geological Survey. Vehicular traffic estimates. Stormwater management plan. Any high value habitat like Maine Department of Inland Fisheries. If there's any watershed, gray pond, or phosphorus control plan. Location and method for disposal of clearing land. So that's the entire list. So, what do we do with, so TEDS, let's talk about TEDS first. I mean, TEDS is an incredibly straightforward subdivision in the sense of the split, the way it's set up.
Well, I would,
But he's right, like if all of this is required, it financially doesn't make any sense. But is that the town's choice to make it that way? So if we're gonna do a subdivision, you gotta,
I'm seeing things here that, my problem is, if we waive them for Ted, and then we gotta waive them for the next guy, and we gotta waive them for the next guy and the next guy. And that's my problem, is the precedence of this.
yeah.
Well, that'd be a good opportunity, I don't need to speak out of turn, but that'd be a good opportunity to revise that, because I think the sharing of data, just by reaching out perhaps to people who are, that might be something where reaching out to say, hey, what is what items look like moving forward, because that might be, this might be a perfect opportunity to revise that at an upcoming meeting. Because again, I've gone through this before, this is my first rodeo, when it comes to this stuff. Again, I gauge the city of Portland on the upper extreme, because they're incredibly difficult to get through. Even on my subdivision, and they've never requested anything to this degree.
Yeah.
And I've been involved in like sidewalks, private roads, for 50 feet of roadways.
So they may have protections afterwards that we don't have. They may have other protections we don't know about. But we have always had boundary surveys and certain.
I agree. The boundary surveys goes without speaking. I think that's for sure. But the price per acre, things like that, it really does kind of how do you break this up? And I would think that there's a clear line with the vision, paint a picture, a minor, less than 3 to a this, if I was proposing a 50 lot subdivision, I would expect traffic count. I would expect a significant engineering request and a fee. But for example, in Suffolk, the highest bill I've ever paid down there was an impact fee, and I didn't pay, it was $2,500, you know, and that encompassed the whole thing for a building permit after I divided the thing. So it seems pretty extreme. That's all. It might be the time to perhaps reach out and revise that minor subdivision. It does seem pretty extreme. But if that's the town's wish as well,
We did this relatively recently,
In the last 10 years.
which is, but, yeah, so, and I don't feel comfortable waiving any fees. I mean, that was passed in a town meeting. I don't feel comfortable waiving fees.
Let's walk through this a little bit. So,
Maybe the $300 like for the small amount we're going to split, maybe like up to 4 versus what you're splitting off of, because that would make sense, right? If you're saying the minor subdivision is 4, maybe the 300 is per those acres versus the rest.
yeah, it says per lot or acre, whichever is greater.
Per lot. So if you're splitting off a 4-acre lot, that would be what you would want.
Depends on the size of the acres of the lots.
Yeah, I think that's the size of the lot. So let's tee up some of these questions for the board's consideration. So the fee.
I don't have the thing in front of me, David, but there's an application fee, correct? Which is just a one-time thing, and then there's a study fee. $300 per lot or acre.
whichever's greater.
That's a bad word right there, I'll tell you.
Yeah, it seems weird because if you have a 200-acre lot and you make them into 5 subdividable lots, it seems like we encourage that, not discourage it.
We never saw the kind of subdivision that Mr. McDonald wants to do. We never saw it. No, we didn't see it coming. We didn't foresee it, to be the right word. I mean, these are two unique circumstances, but the town wanted to be sure that it didn't get the short end of the stick when a subdivision happened.
So how many acres is yours?
The original lots, we're going to split as 14, so we're going to be leaving 4 with the current project, and then hopefully we're looking at 10 acres.
Your son said 9.5, give us much time to do.
And you guys mind, let me just ask him. Yeah. But my experience has been with major and minor subdivisions. I know nobody asked, but I'm going to tell you what I've been through. Is that if I came to town looking to put in a 20-lot subdivision, let's say I bought a 100-acre lot or whatever, you'd only see my application, you'd never actually get to meet me because of engineering companies. That's correct. We pay engineers to come in, and then actually, because they charge me per lot, that's the problem. And they do all the studies, they do all, what they correct, they have all the survey guys, they do all the impact studies, they do all the traffic studies, they do that for you. And then it costs up to $30,000.
Right.
But that's how bigger subdivisions are formed.
And we've had that before where we had professional guys come in and they laid it all out for us and absolutely, yeah.
And that's the norm. But the smaller stuff, anything 4 lots and down, I suppose every time the sensitive areas where something's being divided, but by and large, like, you know, impact animals or some kind of spotted lizard or whatever, growing pools,
Oh, so yours would be $5,600, right? 14 acres at $300 a pop.
On top of $7,000, you got to pay the town to get another tree.
Well, that's not us. I mean,
It's not.
that's just private owner decided to put in a tree growth and save $7,000 before we bought it. So if it is $5,600, is that something you don't want to go forward on, or?
No one's looking to get, pay that kind of money. I mean, well, I would like to know that, does that $300 an acre apply to 4 lot under subdivisions, or is that just something to give to bigger things to kind of help the price of expenses involved with it?
It's under the minor subdivision, the major subdivision costs
Also,
$300.
It seems a little out of balance.
Yeah, Sarah, and real quick, I don't know, the one major difference would be a bond. Does the town require a bond per acre minor subdivision, any below 500? Because typically a town would request that a builder developer set up or establish a bond fund.
I've got $15,000 for the
That's the year.
Really?
Yep,
We gotta track down that.
and $15,000 per lot or acre.
Is
Yeah.
Debbie here?
Two lots.
She's not here anymore.
No, this is.
Did we ever track down the meeting that we?
Yes, we did.
Yes, we did.
I did.
No, it goes from $300 for a minor to $15,000 per lot or acre for a major.
So you're right.
I mean, I can't help it, that's the way it is.
There's no way to waive it?
I don't know how we can. I mean, if this went through in a town meeting, I don't know how we can rewrite the regulation for the fee. I mean, we're supposed to have this before we're even at this stage. We're supposed to have this money.
Right.
I would want a legal opinion before I said anything other than I can't leave it.
It just doesn't seem appropriate for the subdivisions in front of us.
There's a lot of this regulation that I go by that I don't think is appropriate. It happens often. But there it is, you know.
Do you have any thoughts on that?
I'm looking in, I'm trying to find in here what our authority or, what we can waive and what we can't waive, but I
think,
haven't found
I
anything.
think, how does the state subdivision ordinance come into play on this one, Mike? Remember we talked about the state?
Well, there's the definitions and there's, unfortunately, I didn't bring my copy of the ordinance with me because I made down some notes on it. But I think you folks who have been at this longer than I am, when a request comes in for a subdivision or a waiver or something like that, the planning board has to go by the rules, right?
As to what?
It has to go by the written rules. That can be appealed to the Board of Appeals, right? And they have the opportunity to waive it if there's some reason to do so.
So if we ask for the fee, they can appeal the fee?
I don't know, but I think you're gonna end up with more than just the fee to be talked about here.
So the other person we could go to is BJ Feldman. But I would love to see the people other than the town pay for DJ to consult on this.
I would try to find the belief or not, that any attorney overstep or advise the town, being the authority down in jurisdiction, to make these plans. I don't see how the state would supersede anything at the local level. When it comes to a town's bylaws and rules and regs. But I don't think that's.
BJ Feldman works for the, Cumberland County
Southern Regional Planning.
Southern Regional Planning. And when we have done subdivisions before, we've had somebody from Southern Regional Planning come and sit with us at the applicant's expense. Southern Regional Planning is cheaper than, Pierce Outwood. But they generally have helped a lot, see all sides of the question. And I would like to find a way to get them involved in this rather than have us sit around and you be dissatisfied and we're saying stuff because we feel we've got to say it, and we could have somebody from the outside who may be able to find a way to do this.
Yeah, I also think that there's a process though too. You guys have done a fantastic job of doing the process of presenting this. Any matter which town is obligated or assigned to you guys to do, your authority is to do X within a certain amount of time. And if there's any opposition or any whatsoever, they would be voiced prior to our making this meeting sure. So at some point, I know I don't know what the reluctancy is or the nervousness of making a decision. I think you have been to make the decisions. And at some point, rather than, you know, we gotta exercise the common sense and then have the authority to say, I can make this decision, and if the request was significant, I could see that. Right now, between the two requests on the table right now, anyway, it just so happens to be, we had a public hearing, and I don't see any opposition. I would like to say that if it was something more significant, I would be happy, more than happy. I mean, at this time, all we're asking is to be compliant, expose it to the planning board. I think we've done that, and we're not asking for anything more significant than, it's as simple as the request for 2 lots down for one, and then the permission to look at the house across the street that was built as a mistake, as a grandfather lot, permitted for just that. And then we're only here, and I feel so bad for Jamie that I have told him to do this. He doesn't have to be here. He has no way, he doesn't have to be here. He's here to try and help me fix this mistake. So, it seems pretty cut and dry. I don't know, the idea of reaching out to have to make decisions on something that we have up to this point no opposition is a little nerve-wracking for sure.
I would agree with Frank. The minor subdivision for a lot of it, 141 acres, $42,300 for no roads or traffic studies or anything, just for drawing visible lines in town. If I were to fit lot, the price, the fee to the town would rise to $2,150,000. This very visible line from that, I think, on the face of it, I hope we'll find that successful.
Well, we're not dealing with major subdivision, so we don't have to deal with that number.
Just a quick perspective.
I'll be honest, there's only one of the towns I know of that has a real high get through the door fee, and that's Lake Arrowhead in Waterford. If you pull a building permit there, you can buy your lot for $5 or $6 grand, but you give them 12 grand just for the pleasure of sitting down on these chairs.
Right.
That's it.
We didn't charge you that much. It's been wearing masks.
Not surprised at that.
Sure.
Again, I do read the ordinance, but I have a suggestion.
David?
Please,
If Ted creates a building lot, if Ted or Jamie creates a building lot, could be 5 acres, 7 acres, 12 acres, but the requirement is that you need at least 2 acres to build on, build for 2 acres, not 5, 7, 12, or whatever it is.
Like that. That's minimum also.
you understand what I'm saying?
No.
That we just consider them 2 acre lots? So,
Is that-
I guess try it again, I didn't get it.
As they demonstrated, if there's a $300 fine per charge per acre, and you have 20 acres, the cost gets astronomical. But the requirement to build on land, whether it's 20 acres or 12 acres, is you need at least 2 acres. Charging for 2 acres.
So that would be fine if the balance of the land above and beyond the 2 acres was donated to the town and the town accepted. Because that's the next thing the ordinance starts to talk about. Mixed up in this about how charging for the acreage is talk about donating land to the town. And if they wanted to donate land to the town, and the town wanted to accept it, because that's also in there, then I understand what you're saying.
Yeah,
In Article 14, it talks about waivers. 14.1, waivers authorized, where the board makes written findings of fact that there are special circumstances of a particular parcel proposed to be subdivided. It may waive portions of the submission requirements unless otherwise indicated in the regulations, provided the applicant has demonstrated that the performance standards of these regulations and the criteria of the subdivision statute have been or will be met, the public health, safety, and welfare protected, and provided the waivers do not have the effect of nullifying the intent or purpose of the comprehensive plan, zoning ordinance, or these regulations. I would think that it's up to the board as to, how broadly to interpret the line may waive portions of the submission requirements. The fee per acre is a submission requirement. And we can, I think we can enact 14.1 to waive it or change it. I would posit that we apply the fee to the lot, not the acre, and that would be, what we would be waiving is the phrase, whichever is greater, and we would use our discretion to apply the $300 fee to the lot, not the acre.
I could agree with that.
Ted, a lot of that land is not usable. How much is usable land?
Of that 14 acres.
Of the 14 acres, yeah.
There's probably about an acre that we're currently building on, that's usable, because the wetland forms right up behind it, and that slab is where, and the dug lot. And then the new lot, that's even narrower. So that's probably gonna be a total, land uses of less than 3/4 of an acre out of that. So I got a lot, maybe 2 acres of land I'm using out of that whole.
So your son at the sidewalk had a wetlands map. Do you happen to have it with you?
Here.
See where I'm going? You see where I'm going? Can't whisper in the mask, can you?
That's right. Yeah.
I don't think there's much danger in subdividing those lots. It's not.
No, but I'm thinking, the special circumstance in his case is, he has such a small area to build on, that he's really not using 14 acres, he's really using 2 acres.
Yep.
Like, that's all that's usable on those 14 acres. So, to count all 14 acres against him is a little difficult. Because it's open, he can never build it, he can never. Can you disturb the property down there, or is it wetlands that you can't disturb?
You can approach the board and ask for the variance to build into this property, but only in green spots, not in the blue. You get into the blue.
But you can't, like, cut the trees down and put a lawn next to them, or can you do that?
Well, there's a lot of trees cut down already, but really only on the dry part, not on the wetlands.
Because I don't really want to go by lot.
You don't want to go by
That's a
the
bad, I think that's a bad precedent. Because that's not a circumstance.
So you want to go by usable acres?
Well, I think in his case, the special circumstances, he has very little usable acreage.
So
He's being charged for 12 acres of unusable land.
Right.
That's a interesting question, but then we're gonna get to the next one.
Well, we can't solve all problems with, it's a special circumstance, right? Like, that's the issue.
That will be another special circumstance.
Well, we have to see it.
And we will talk about what that is.
Right, each case has to be its own analysis. I'm just thinking out loud.
So you would say there's maybe 3 usable acres on this subdivision? And you would charge for the 3 usable acres?
Right.
I can see that.
And if he wants to come back and prove it's only 2.5 with some sort of fancy study that's gonna cost more than $3 million,
I never, that's,
then he can come back and prove it's less.
3 acres usable?
And that's what I saw.
That's about what we
Is
saw
that
with him back.
a fair estimate or is that unfair?
it's probably what we close. Now you think about,
What do you think, Bob? You were there.
I'm leaning toward the lot, per lot.
Yeah, you guys can overrule it. So.
And the reason I say that is, this is just an application fee. This is not the fee that you charge a guy to, or the money that you ask him to put up to do the long-term studies and, represent the town in reviewing things. That's another substantial amount of money. And that goes by lot or acre as well, and that seems astronomical. I mean, he talked about the $500,000 just for the fee on the McDonald lot, but when you start talking about the study, then that's a huge amount. And I think that this edit, with a penciled-in edit, is not well done. And
Well, it's passed by the town. It's not a pencil in there. I mean, it's passed by the town. We just didn't retype the entire ordinance because of the change, that's all.
yeah, but I think if it's by the lot, then it becomes more reasonable. And in either of these cases, if the individual subdivides and then sells one of those lots to put in a whole bunch of houses, and then come back again in another subdivision review. Well, I think the numbers, the way it's specifically written, is something's not right there.
Well, I'd like to know, I respect David a lot for his knowledge of things we're not aware of when it comes to the law. And so I'm curious, David, as to why you are interested in the difference here. What is it that strikes your interest?
Because the special circumstance, and the waiver requirement requires us to find special circumstances. And so, what is the special circumstance that we're reducing the cost? And what I'm saying is the special circumstance for Ted is he only has 3 acres of buildable property. It's unfair to charge him for 14 acres.
Well, I like that. What you're doing is focusing on using the waiver clause to find a special circumstance. And, in this one, we apply it to usable acres. We can work on finding another different special circumstance for Jamie's land to be able to apply it to the lots.
If it exists.
If it exists, for instance, like the land is leased to a solar power company,
Is a non-residential use.
Right. So we can do some things like that.
Now, I don't know what the plans are for the other 2 lots, whether they're residential or not.
well, I think that substantial, the significance of what we're having for a conversation here is also the potential. No matter if it's 80 acres or 50 acres, the approach today is a minimum of 2 acres. In other words, it's fully allowed to be issued 1 building permit whether it's 2 acres or 80 acres, currently, without going through a further review. So regardless of that, that's an imposition or impact.
Yeah.
Just for me too, just.
Focus on my, let's focus on one.
Would you, like somebody to, I could make a motion that, the board, use, section, Article 14.1 waivers authorized to waive the, $300, per, acre fee for the Terrio subdivision because of special circumstances with, based on usable acres, and that there are only 3 usable acres, so that the fee would be $900. Do you want a,
I think you just did.
okay.
I'll second the motion.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? All those in favor of applying 14.1 is this, okay?
Thank you.
We're only a little bit of way there.
What are we doing? What is our goal tonight?
I didn't have that. I didn't have a plan off there, frankly. So that's 6.2B. I don't see any reason to ask the applicant for a special account. No? Okay. So, what do we need from this applicant to do a final consideration of his application? I think that's the next step.
We'll need a final plan.
Well, we can consider when we have a final plan, if we think it's final. That's kind of that's the tail wagging the dog sort of thing. So we got to figure out if it has all the elements of the final plan. And if it does, then we consider it to be a final.
I need a survey.
So, let's see that.
I need a survey and I need to see a building envelope.
He has that.
I just haven't seen it.
But we could condition approval on submission of the survey unless we need the survey approved. That's, yeah.
Yeah,
Which one comes first, that's all.
well, we just had somebody, it didn't matter what they said before they went in.
What do we get there? It looks like a survey, do you think? It's in village commercial. So he's got the lot, it's on the lot.
This is a septic plan,
Yeah.
done by septic designer.
So it's a detailed sheet, so.
That's a hand drawn on, I don't know if it's a survey. Did you have a surveyor next to you go stake it out? I had a surveyor come and do Michelle's lots. I mean, I had a surveyor come and draw me the property line from Michelle's lot, so we meet setbacks now, foundation.
And then the separation of the other one, I saw the tape there, but on the stick, but
That was just me. I wanted to know what that was, because that was where we were supposed to put that. But if we get approval on this, of course, we have to go get that. So, in order to be fine to build something. That's good enough.
Yes, yes.
Most of the land already,
You guys can move a little closer, it only has to be 6 feet, it doesn't have to be 20 feet. Just so you know.
most of the land has already been had it surveyed, divided in half, so that half is head. Then had a chunk surveyed, still across to the street to the neighbor. So the only part that's not surveyed is his land having one line drawing between it to make two lots.
Right.
That's
So
also.
that's the key one.
And it can have been surveyed, but we don't know it until we see the paper.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know, it's like, we need that for your files. So that 50 years from now, it can be openly looked at. I was looking through here, I mean, I guess what we're doing is advising Ted what he needs at this point to do. The only other requirement that I find I'm curious about is a stormwater management plan. Dwight, have you ever seen Smut Street flood? Because the water table is not,
Pretty hard.
pretty high, and I just wondered if we have to worry about runoff, if you're putting in this much impervious surface, and I just don't know. It depends on the bulldozer guy too, whether the bulldozer guy pushes all the water into the street.
So do you want to go through the application requirements and just tick them off
Yeah.
to see whether anything has to be added to, if we consider that we have a draft final plan, let's go through this and see if anything has to be added.
Now, I need one thing first, give me 2 seconds. So, pursuant to 6.2C1, I'm giving him a receipt. Good, I'm not gonna put it in. Alright. So we've done everything up through 6.2. 6.3, we're on 6.3, right? Yep, that's it. Yeah, done everything up to there. Yep. The application, location map. He has a location map. Yep. Check that out. Final plan. So we don't know if we have a final plan yet, we need to figure that out. So the one thing on the final plan we don't have are transparencies.
You guys have to get embossing seals. The problem is you can't see me smiling behind my mask.
I think what we've done with the Mylars is we've had paper copies up to the point of the final meeting where we
Sign up.
sign, because we sign the Mylar. We do not sign the paper copy.
Transparency. Doesn't have to be a bylaw.
Okay, transparency.
You can go to Staples and get that clear paper, and you can print. You can run it through the printer, just like a normal piece of paper, and that's the transparency. So if you know what I'm talking about,
Well, you want the.
it doesn't have to be that.
Well, Staples does it, whatever size you want.
Yeah. It just has to be a drawing to scale. You're not going to be perfect, but not more than 100 feet to 1 inch.
One to be recorded at the registry of deeds.
Right.
So it's a survey.
But that can be a drawing. Isn't that okay?
Okay.
I mean, traditionally we get surveys, so it doesn't have to be.
Okay.
I use Sebago Tech to do all that survey stuff, they're out of South Walton. When they're looking at stuff like this, Venus has been surveyed to death. They basically just go pull old surveys and they produce what they call a boundary line survey. As opposed to going out there and setting up all the stuff and taking all the measurements, and then they'll just do their draft right down that line.
That's all we need. I mean, we don't, like I said, you could actually drive yourself if you had a little bit of skill. And you can copy it on transparency. It doesn't have to be, cool Mylar stuff.
No more than 100 feet to the edge.
Right. So that's one thing we don't have. And how you comply with that is up to you. You can revisit it as well as we can.
I think I'd rather bring you because the official document that Sebago would make, because they're adding all the lines and signatures.
That makes it better,
Usually if there's any conditions or any other
but it goes in there.
commands, going in the sidebars.
So, David,
Yeah,
when we get into application requirements,
okay, let's go there.
in the final plan, number one, no big deal, name of the subdivision, identifying title, assessment map, lot numbers, verification of right. Well, so we're gonna need the verification of right, title, or interest in the property, but to what Joe was saying, number 3 says, a standard boundary survey of the parcel giving complete descriptive data by bearings and distances made and certified by a professional land surveyor. So, that's what it says. I guess we can choose to waive certain things, but,
Well, let's go through this step by step. So do you have a name for this subdivision?
I don't know, small road, two lots, right? Lots A, lot B, I don't know. Yeah, I've never been there before.
Pick a name, man.
What do you want to call
Put your name on it.
this? Ontario Acres, how's that?
Right. Verification of title, right, or interest in property. So we need a copy of the.
You got it.
Yeah, so we got that. Boundary survey of parcel, you said you already have that, something,
I have it with Michelle's file.
okay.
There's something attached to this application with the deed.
Does it keep the same thing as a boundary
What
survey?
it is, land development,
The survey is actually, as online.
and it's got certain lots and parcels and runs so many.
That's the legal description. All right, so we need the survey, that's the next thing we need.
Well, I put it down for the loss, but maybe if I go with the expense of the surveys, there's some kind of guarantee, proof that this is gonna work, efficient.
Well, it's never guaranteed, but if you give us what's in here,
Well, I think, not to speak our turn, but, at the same time, it's, the requests for certain things are gonna be costly. So if we're putting the cart before the horse, there's gotta be some consideration. So if we said, hey, conditionally, we'll do this, if you supply X and Y, you did 1, 2, 3. Every town has one business, but once you get the approval, they won't release you a building permit until you complete your paperwork. So once I bring the law up, it's not, you guys have to make a building permit. I never heard it, say, my subdivision did that.
so a couple things. First off, all we're doing is checking boxes here. So if you bring us all the stuff to check a box, we don't have any real discretion, like you get it. So we're telling you what boxes you guys have to check. Nothing's ever for sure. If you bring us all this stuff and we look at it, and it turns out that you actually own property down by 5 and not it's on Freedom Street, we're gonna say no. So I can't guarantee, like there's no guarantee. But if you check off boxes, you're gonna get it. And the other thing I want to say is, all this stuff is online. I mean, it's much easier if you guys read this stuff first and then come to us knowing what you're supposed to do. Like, we're trying to work with you guys.
Oh, no, I totally get that.
Yeah, so,
As a builder, when I go to different towns, my first contact is with the code enforcement guy. Everything I know about that town comes from the code enforcement guy. Most cases, they'll have all the answers as far as land use, things of that nature, but procedural stuff, unless you have to get in front of a planning board. I've been to websites where I spent half an hour trying to find little font size. You can't find any specific information that's looking for.
yeah. No, I just push you back a little bit on you guys. Like, you guys are walking in the door a little less informed than I hope. And so I'm pushing back a little bit on it. It doesn't mean we're not going to talk about the boxes, figure out what boxes, and get you guys what you need, if we can. But
It's just a new learning curve, because every town has their own specific method. There's no real cut and dry way to fail.
Yeah.
So, chapters that were involved.
and we're all volunteer. We show up here to serve the pleasure of the people. Rewarding as it is.
Yes.
So we got a couple things. We've got the transparencies. We've got the proposed name nailed down. We've got the boundary surveys. We've got the deeds already done. Any restrictions that you're going to have? We need copies of those. I doubt you're going to have any serious restrictions. The sewage disposal, is that just for one property or is that for both?
That's just the one.
The one?
That's just the proposed one.
Type of water supply system, assuming you're going to do wells.
I'm just going to go about that.
Number of acres. 11. Do we need anything else on 11? Or?
You just skipped over a bunch of stuff that would be good for us to address. A high-intensity soil survey by a certified soil scientist. You don't want to do that, I'll bet.
No, that's your HHE.
Talk to me.
That's your soil, your survey, so for your septic.
Oh, okay.
So he's already done that for one of the lots.
Oh, okay.
But not for both lots.
Both lots, okay, so both lots is already done that.
Okay.
Because you have to do that and put in septic, right?
You have to bring us a septic plan before you write a permit.
And we have that stuff.
Is that something to work?
Yep.
Is there anything else we need on 11? We have the acreage, there's a drawing of the boundary lines. There's no existing buildings. There's no brooks or rivers or streams, is there?
It's all swamp, there's a stream.
Is there a stream?
Yep. The culvert out of the road carries a stream, which flowing will be with it.
Contour lines, is there any contour to that property?
It's not a 10-foot contour, I'll tell you that. And the only thing I'm concerned about here, I'm concerned about water runoff. The land not be recontoured having the water flow into the road.
Where do you see that?
No, number 13 is about contour lines, number 24 is about stormwater management, and this is addressing what happens when you take a piece of land that hasn't been built on and you put a driveway, impervious surface, and a roof, another impervious surface, and you direct all this water in some direction, and you find out later that the house was built a little high so it didn't flood, and the water well runs into the road, so you have ice, and you have logging trucks tipping over there.
I think there's a wetland right behind the houses.
And so it would be easy to divert the water towards a wet area. And I'm trying to think of what's a simple, inexpensive way for us to say, divert the water to a low land, not to the road. We tried to get an ordinance passed by the town, and the town did not pass it, saying that driveways all had to come up to the road, that they had to be below road level and then come up to the road, and the town would not pass the ordinance. But we still have the responsibility, because that guy in the red shirt over there is going to be pissed off if the water goes into the road, we have icing and accidents. Now what does the town do? You know, and it's going to be costing the town and the fire department coming out and rescue squad and everything else. Nobody's going to be happy.
You know, I'm sure based on the setbacks that the town sets for, I'm 85 feet off the road, so lots of even a torrential downpour coming off my foot roof. We're getting 85 feet into the road, which is no water, there's no culverts, there's no ditches on Fremont and nothing, it's all flat. And in defense of the property, even though it's wet, the soils are very drinkable.
It's all sand.
Yeah, it's all sand.
I know.
I don't think there's going to be a whole lot issue.
We all have good intentions now,
There
you know.
So it says, so I don't see any issue for 24, the stormwater
You
drain.
don't have anybody?
I don't see any major issues with submissions.
Okay.
I mean, hydrological assessment. But the stormwater drain, so it says the board may not waive the submission of the stormwater management plan unless the subdivision is not in the watershed of a great pond.
I don't know.
It's not.
Is it Sand Pond, is a great pond, and Sebago Lake is a great pond?
Well, it's not in the watershed of Sand Pond.
No.
Because everything's uphill to the Sand Pond.
So it's
It goes
Saco
through the river.
River watershed.
Yeah.
And that's on a great pond.
Right.
Okay, unless it's not in the watershed of a great pond. The proposed subdivision will not involve grading, which changes the drainage pattern. And the addition of impervious surfaces such as roofs and driveways is less than 5% of the area of the subdivision.
Well,
Definitely.
that's true.
Yeah.
So that means we can waive it.
You see that?
You don't have to.
Doesn't it?
Okay.
That's not common. I think all of those conditions are met here.
Okay.
But I think as a condition of the subdivision, we have to say, you know, the applicant will ensure no grading is accomplished that will change the drainage pattern. Like that's the provision, like that's what you want protection from, is that it doesn't change the drainage pattern. So if it does, they can say, we need to pay to fix that,
Okay.
right?
That works for me. That works for me.
And that covers a lot of ground, because there's places where driveways can be built up on properties, you know, on steep side hills and whatnot, and high range of wash right over the road, so a guy on a motorcycle comes down and gets wiped out. I did make a comment on that stuff.
Yeah.
That particular piece of property there is, it does pretty good with raised homes.
So I think the board needs to do a finding that pursuant to 6.324, this application is not in the watershed of the Great Pond. The applicant has stated that the grading will not change the drainage patterns, and the impervious surfaces was less than 5% of the area of the subdivision.
Chairman says so moved.
Yes.
So moved.
Second.
All right, everybody in favor? All right. So that also covers 25.
Yep.
26.
So what I would love to see from the applicant is an application that answers every one of these questions and asks for a waiver or states what they're doing to comply with the request. And I think when he comes back with that, we should take up his application. Because he's seen how we work, he's seen what our condition is that we will waive things, under which we'll waive things. And we really got to pay attention to these other people who are here too. And I'd like to see us move on.
So do you have a list of what we want?
No, I appreciate all you're doing for me, but you've got the list in your hand. If I met these conditions, that's all I should have to present, I would think.
Well, I know we need a few more things from you.
Yeah.
So we need the transparencies.
Right.
We need the boundary survey.
He's got to look it up on the web.
The things that we're identifying,
But I mean, there's things that I would like to hear his reply to.
such as,
Number 28, the location and method of disposal of land clearings and construction debris. I mean, I'm just picking out things as I look. There's a lot of stuff that has to be addressed. And we're taking up everybody's time to do his work for him.
By and large, a lot of that stuff, as far as construction's covered in building permit. Yeah. It's the way you're supposed to do it. Yeah.
yeah, that's not the way it works here, unfortunately. Anybody else's thoughts?
Well, I think that we made some tremendous progress here for Ted. If he comes back next meeting, with these things covered, I mean, it's easy. I just pull it right up on my phone. We have the bulk of it. There's not very much more to do, so you beef the plan up a little bit. You come back with $750 because you got a receipt for the $150, and we have something that we can vote on. And we'll get her done.
I think I can get that survey done in that time period too, and then we'll file it.
Yeah.
Get the transparency. I mean, what Joe's saying is he wants you to copy this, this 6.3 section, the application requirements, and walk through it yourself and make sure you think everything's covered. And if there's questions, write in a little blurb about how you're going to dispose of the construction debris. Like that's what Joe's asking.
What's your email?
It's Rumford Road.
What's that?
Rumford Road.
Rumford? RUNFORD.
We just asked if this is the same requirement. Are you going to continue to read this for the application?
people bring it, around the drive.
Well, so what happened here was, a lot of this stuff, I think there's a lot of confusion there, because we had to come to the board to get resolution clarity on a lot of stuff, because the idea,
I kept telling you, go read the ordinance. I told you at least 5 or 6 times that you gotta read the ordinance.
yeah, so then reading the ordinance, it was asinine to me to see before you build on a minor subdivision with a lot. So for me, to come to the planning board and ask for clarification, that was, are we serious? Because a lot of times, these things get waived. They say it's not necessary, it's still get covered, and all.
So when we get professional people coming in front of us,
What's that?
when we get professional people coming in front of us,
Yeah.
they will take this ordinance and they will copy it and give their reply to each request. And when they want a waiver, they'll say, please grant me a waiver because, or just please grant me a waiver. So they do the work ahead of time. And you're saying you find our work asinine, and I am insulted.
No, I'm
sorry, I am.
I'm sorry you feel that way. My intention was that, not to insult anybody, but what I'm suggesting is that we're stating that maybe it's perfect to rewrite some of these things. There are other times.
There are professionals who take this professionally, and they deal with it professionally, and they come to us with a piece of paper and a packet that we can use. And we go through it, and in half an hour you'd be out the door.
So, all right. So maybe it's the heat, maybe it's the mask, maybe it's the situation.
Well, I'm not going to add to that.
So Ted, do you have a clear idea of what you need to do to finish your application, get it ready for us to make a vote?
I have it now, but my question would be procedurally, if Wes had said, if Wes knew that was part of the process, where here's all the ordinances, take this home and do all this, I'd have been all set again. But that was never, we never discussed that. He said, here's the application. And that's as far as we go. So I never knew that there would be some, my own thing that had to be addressed. Well, this is, I'm not throwing Wes on the bus. I'm just saying it wasn't anything that was presented to me as part of the process of applying for subdivision.
In the application, there's items 1 through 12, that's what we covered.
That's it?
Only 12 have A, B, C, which requires some narrative part. Beyond that, it's just fill in the blanks.
That's all I got.
Just give me a second here. So Wes and the board are kind of 2 different entities, and like Wes serves the selectmen. We work with Wes, but Wes is not, we don't employ him and don't have oversight. So Wes gave you a conditional use permit application, and it's helpful, but it's not necessarily the same information that's needed for a subdivision.
I want to know that.
Yeah, so, David.
Yeah, can you help me?
Yeah. So, between Wes and the planning board, we both screwed up. Because you've been on Zoom calls with us, right? So, at some point during our interaction, somebody from the planning board should have said, Ted, do you have the minor subdivision requirements? They're on the town website. We should have said, this isn't the CUP, you need to fill this out. We should have probably made that clearer to you about the subdivision requirements. Because up until tonight, it seems like you were working under the auspices of, it was a subdivision, but the form that you were supposed to fill out was basically a CUP. So you've gotten mixed messages, And for that, we're sorry. But to move forward, we do have to take a step back and, check the boxes in the subdivision ordinance.
Right, because at the beginning, there was a lot of question as to whether or not this was a subdivision because of all the stuff, from banning and you selling from the butter, things of that nature, because we didn't create that third law. So technically it does fall under subdivision, but I don't know all that applied. When he gave you that particular form with the 12 questions on it, that's all I knew of at the time. And then I sent the application in, and then it never got to the board.
If you recall, just as you put the application, you made 7 copies of the 9-page each, and you required that we email it, that's the, because we were starting out, it should be you at that.
Yeah.
We only got 1 copy of it, I got it all right here. And here's the 2 pages of the application, here's the explanation for a question, well, we got it. So it was all submitted.
Right, but I think Wes, what we're saying is for a subdivision, it's supposed to be a different application, I think.
Yeah, I think, well, let's see.
It would be clearer if it was a different application.
It's not a CUP, it's.
Well, the written description of the proposal use of the property. And you go to here about dividing the thing in two
What's 12B out of though? 12B of what?
Are the first 12 questions of the application.
So item 12,
For conditional use permit.
This is not a conditional use permit. It's a Article 6 minor subdivision, and it lays out in there what the plan is supposed to be. The final plan application shall consist of the following items. A, application form. B, location map. C, final plan.
That's the second and third part of the application. We filled out the first part, this is the second part.
so what you're saying, Article 12, Article 12 there,
It's just saying question 12.
question 12.
Unconditional use for application. Alright, I don't want to waste more time on this. So, Ted, you understand what you need to do to finalize this application? Okay? So, do you think you can get it done before the next meeting so we can review it, or do you need more than 2 weeks?
Well, depends on if you want the survey to go on with that. If I get the survey done, I'll put together all the package and I'll bring it back. Because West is the gateway to the land.
You can always email me directly, if you have the documents, you can email them directly to me. You got my email address, email me today, so.
No, I appreciate that, but I'll do my best to go procedurally what is supposed to be questions and things of that nature, but at the time, I thought it was all right.
Totally get it. Okay, so you're in a good place. You'll let me know before the Monday, before the next meeting, whether or not, okay. Jamie,
Yes.
so tell us a little bit about what you're going to do with the rest of the property. You're going to shave off a couple acres for him. You got a decent sized parcel that you're going to have a solar farm on. Not you, but somebody. So what are you going to do with the other 2 parcels?
I have no intentions of, I have no plans. The triangle, which is, lot 4 now, which is a labeled one thing because we decided to do that. In the last meeting, basically that's the road. That's up for sale, it's on the market. The other lot, the 80 and the 50, I'm leaving all of that wide open for the solar people. I don't know exactly where they're going to place it. So I'm just leaving it wide open.
So the 2 large lots, theoretically, are non-residential in nature, right?
Yeah.
So if I could, ask a question, Jamie, from my working with the solar people, and you said you didn't know where they were going to put the solar arrays.
It's not exactly.
So in a sense, it's an amorphous place. They may not, are they gonna rent all this land from you?
Well, the way my lease is structured is that they lease the entire land, and they're gonna have the solar panels inside of the fence. But then the rest of the land, they call reserve land. And they put, easements, or some kind of restriction. Basically, the only easement is that you can't, well, I'm allowed to sell that land, but the easement or the restriction, whatever, covenant goes with it. They can't build trees that block, you can't have trees for a while, you block the sun, insulation. So the entire thing is covered by the lease.
So why do you have it divided up into 2 lots now?
They requested that. I don't know.
Okay.
I think perhaps in other towns they go to, they the solar farm that they go triggers a division.
Yeah.
And
Well,
so
it does, a lease does,
we're just covering the
it
base.
does trigger a division now.
Let me one question. As I understand what you're saying though, is that the eastern lot, or one of them will, has a restriction that you can't plant trees that will shade solar panels on the other one? Is that what?
The entirety of the 140 acres.
Yeah, lots 2 and 3.
The entirety of the 40 are covered by that restriction.
I don't know specifically why it needs to be subdivided. I mean, that's between you and them. My opinion is that lot 4 is a lot in and of itself by definition of the subdivision. It's divided by a road, private or public, that was there before 1971. We don't need to discuss that.
Well, we haven't done that as a board. We haven't recognized that as a board yet, that rule applies.
I thought putting it as a lot to simplify that.
That's state law.
Yeah, but we went over this on the phone, and what we decided as a whole group is that instead of just going for 3 subdivisions, because the 4th lot was up for sale, that since he's subdividing, we might as well call that lot 4, and it'll just make it easier for him to get a deed for it when he sells it without having to deal with, is it a road, is it not a road, blah, blah, blah.
We don't know what Deacon Road is.
Deacon Road is a town road, but by definition, whether it's public or private.
It is it's a town road up to
Yep,
the Poor Farm Road.
yep. And
So here's the disagreement. So under the ordinance, it says that a road, Deacon Road, it divides the property. A road divides the property and it doesn't count as a division for subdivision purposes, provided that the road was not created by somebody who owned both sides of the road. So if you own both sides of the road, you can't create a road and say, well, now I don't have to subdivide. So state law says that it doesn't matter if the person who owns both sides of the road created the road, if the road existed before 1971, it doesn't matter if the owner owned both sides or not. We've been discussing whether or not our ordinance should apply or the state law shall apply, because the law is that towns can have a more restrictive ordinance than what state law provides if it so chooses. Right? Is that a decent explanation?
Right.
So the question is our ordinance more restrictive because it doesn't have a 1971 time limit or not?
that's one that we can't change, and I don't think that's one that we can change. That's in state statute.
Right, but if our ordinance is more restrictive than state statute, we can apply it.
we've already decided not to put in the waiver request for the 30th of June and file that.
So that would mean that,
State law.
so we have to follow state law.
Right. So my point where I was starting with Jamie is that if he's got, what is that, westerly side of Deacon Road, that 8 acres more or less. Right. And then what we have to deal with is the rest of the land. If he was not requesting a division of that big piece, it's not a subdivision.
That's right.
So we would first have to recognize that the fourth parcel is not subject to the subdivision ordinance, right?
Right. And then he'd have
So
to decide.
let's just do that right now. Okay, so if the applicant wants to recognize lot 4, 8.5 acres on the west side of Deacon Road as a separate parcel, because of the state law, because Deacon Road was created prior to 1971, and at least this portion is a public road, that the planning board would not recognize that as needing or being subject to the subdivision ordinance.
Correct.
Correct.
So moved.
Second? All in favor?
Yep.
You with this one? All right, so we got that addressed. So now the question is the 3 acre request, the 3 parcel request. And what Joe is saying is that you don't want to cut that, you don't want 2 and 3, you can sell in the property and you don't have to deal with us.
That's what it is, just before.
So, but you asked for the split, right? Well, so,
Yeah, I added number 4 at your request at the Zoom meeting after Mr. Woodman Pierce thought that at the time, that Deacon Road wasn't a road and didn't extend.
So understand, we couldn't do this until July 1st. Because July 1st, this all changed. We had to follow state law now. Back before July 1st, this wasn't possible.
So we'll just forget that lot then.
You want to get that out? Yeah, which is fine. You want to keep,
Based on your advice, yeah, I prefer to add. Just to make it clear, more simple.
say that again.
Just to make it more well defined, so we don't even have to bring out that statute of the definition of a road. Just forget about that and just call it lot 4.
Recognize lot.
I don't see it well.
4 is off. We're not even talking about 4. So now the question is back with the primary property. We're just still confused if you even need to separate out 2 and 3. But you say you do.
Yes.
Okay. And assuming non-residential use.
So you're putting a lot of restriction on your property by doing that.
By dividing?
By dividing it, by forcing this into a subdivision. I mean,
What restrictions can you give me some examples of?
I didn't hear anything.
Well, can you give me some examples of what restrictions you're talking about?
Once you're under a subdivision, that's forever.
Okay.
That's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
So when these guys go away in 25 years or whatever it is, and they pulled up stakes and gone, you're still under a subdivision.
I understand that.
Okay.
So if lot 3, you want to do something with it, in 5 years, so in 5 years you can do whatever you want. But because you have a subdivision on it in 5 years, you have to come back and change what you can do with the land because you're always locked into the subdivisions. It goes with perpetuity.
I understand.
Okay. Wes, you can want to say something.
You covered most of what I wanted to say, but I had similar same conversation with Katie about how to divide the land. And I was trained in that 8 acres the other side of Deacon Road was created more than 5 years ago.
We're not even talking about that. This one.
Yeah, okay, so now he has another lot, which has Lenny Thompson's small lot. So he has one and the big lot, another lot two. Jamie has always wanted to divide that in half, two lots, so that the solar farm has one lot to develop on, and one lot that he says they have control of what is done and what is not done. I'm saying, keep it as one lot, but would like it to release that the solar farm has developed on part of it and a say for the rest of it. Don't make it.
So it's up to him, I mean, it's his choice, his land, his choice.
Two lots, whether you walk on another, that's it.
No, it's his choice. So he wants to go, so is there some special circumstance to this property that would not, that makes the initial hurdle of the per lot or acre fee inappropriate?
Well, I think that that this is a commercial operation that we're looking at. It is one of the special circumstances. The other special circumstance would be that the lots will be defined to have a lot of acres.
Yeah.
Over 40 acres each for the two big lots.
Yeah, if you only build one house on those, if you're subdividing, you got coming back and getting the subdivision.
Yep. So he's restricting the amount of houses that can be built there.
So, Jamie, one thing I'm not clear on is why the solar farm company wants you to subdivide lot 2 and 3.
Not our business.
It's not our business, like, we gave them every advice we could.
I'm not doing it for advice. I want to know why the solar company wants to do that. I want to know what their motivation is, what their plans are. Why is it important to the solar farm company that that big lot get divided into 2? There's got to be some kind of rationale, and I would like to understand that.
My best guess is that they don't know, they're so early in the process, that they haven't gone into the subdivision ordinance and the bylaws of the town of Alton. Perhaps on other projects in other states, maybe, that lease triggers a division. And so they were worried that if I just do Lenny's lot, and I use up one division every 5 years, that they could be left not doing a divide.
They may release.
And so I asked them, I said, what works best for you? Where would you like that line drawn? And they told me.
So they may only want to lease 50 acres. So if they lease 50 acres, that's a division of property by lease. So then you have to come to us for a subdivision. Like unless they want to lease, like they probably don't want to pay for the entire
Yeah. Okay.
130 acres. So if they lease 50 acres, then that's a division by lease.
And then maybe they don't also realize that they're going to have to come back for a conditional use permit. This does not grant a conditional use permit.
Right. That's a whole other issue.
Yeah, it's a whole other issue. Sorry.
So I mean, he wants to do it. So
He wants to do it?
I find this to be a highly unusual subdivision because of its commercial use and its incredibly small residential use, at least as it presents. You know, you may have a house lot on either the 8 acres or 50 acres, and you know you have a house lot on 2.5 acres. And you have 130 acres, essentially with one house and commercial use. That does not seem to be a traditional subdivision to me.
And there's also the restriction that there is a real limitation to the number of usable acres in there. I don't know what it is, but there are a lot of vernal pools.
Is that?
Yeah, in there, and that's going to limit, you know, the amount of building and other things in there.
So what is the board, if the board thinks that special circumstances exist, what does the board think that the more appropriate or fair way to price this out would be?
It would be the same thing as we did for Ted. It would be three lots at $300, and we would apply. We would grant a waiver under Article 14 to waive the greater than clause and say that the fee applies to the number of lots, not to the number of acres, because of the lack of buildability, the commercial nature, and et cetera.
Yeah, I think getting the number of lots makes sense in this one.
I'll second the motion.
Yeah. Alright, so the $900 charge.
I have a $150 receipt for my records that I can include as an attachment to the package for the next meeting.
Perfect. So it's 9:10. So I think a lot of the discussion we had with Ted applies here. There's some differences though. The soils test, I'm not sure makes any sense if you're not building a house.
On the other hand, James' property has been soil tested beyond belief by now.
Well, they're gonna come to us with a CDP.
Yeah,
So I'm not sure that,
on that basis, we could waive that.
yeah, it doesn't make sense.
They've had environmental engineers all over the place.
Because the footprint
I've
of
seen
the
them on 3
residential,
occasions.
you already have a septic in the house?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll need to see the septic design.
It's all fine, absolutely.
Yeah, just give us a copy of it. So in terms of additional things that we need,
The deed and the Mylar,
the deed, have you done a boundary survey for this parcel yet?
yes, yes.
It starts at the telephone pole.
Now I know he's following.
Do you have a boundary survey for the rest of the property?
I have an old one that I can provide to, and I don't know how long it takes for the next 2 weeks with the Mylar, if I can, I don't know to bring it to the surveyor or perhaps the planner.
I can't recommend it.
Okay,
I don't think
I'll
it's
figure
okay.
it out. I'll figure it out. I'm not gonna about a mile of road frontage at 200 feet per square inch, which makes it to 26 inches long, so I assume they sell those as staples, 26 big road
Yeah.
frontage.
Yeah, they have whatever
You
size.
could submit, if you want to continue this forward, you could submit it in paper with the understanding that we can't approve it until we get
Okay,
a transparency. Doesn't have to be my law, it has to be a transparency, so, you're gonna have to do that to lease the property
but that's not a formal survey, that's not the big formal survey, this boundary survey is some kind of summary survey, am I correct?
this has to give varies and distances. No, it does have to be by a professional land surveyor.
Okay, alright.
And the only real new thing you have to add is where that line's gonna be, that you separate down the properties. So there's a little additional cost there, but not, you already have it all pretty much done, you just need to make it pretty and get it.
Yeah.
I think the sewage on the residential we need, but the rest of the property, I don't think we need any sewage.
I do is I just take the subdivision ordinance as a PDF, convert it to a Word document, say non-applicable, and then stuff about what we're planning on those items that need to be addressed.
Yeah, I just look at stuff.
I just sent you the link to it, Jason.
Okay.
Subdivision ordinance.
Vehicular traffic is not relevant, parking space is not relevant. Stormwater, so for the purpose of the stormwater, I would be willing to wait until the CUP for the solar panel folks. So you do not need to provide a stormwater management plan. But understand the subdivision is going to be a little bit quirky, that it's going to be restricted to the solar farm. So if you don't end up doing the solar farm, you're going to come back and have to talk to us, just to, because we're letting a few things slide because we know what the solar farm's going to have to do, and they're going to have to be way more than us. So there's no use you spending money that the solar farm's going to have to do it in another year or two.
The guys were on my land today doing an archaeological survey. You're gonna have all kinds of surveys.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you could go through and, if you come to something and you say, I don't know if I have to do this, it's going to cost me some money, send me an email and I can give you an idea of whether I think the board would entertain waiving it or not. You heard our discussion again, so it's going to be a lot of the same discussion, a little bit different. If you can get it to us by the Monday before the next meeting, we can consider your application for approval. Same with your stuff. Again, there's never a promise to it. But you're both pretty close. You just need to do a few more things.
If they had, what is it 6 copies we asked for? We could come down to the town office and pick them up so we could read them before the meeting.
Yeah, well, I assume everything's electronic nowadays, so, but the transparencies wouldn't be just like, you want paper copies or do you want electronic? I prefer electronic.
I can use an electronic.
I'll print them out and send it to you.
I like paper. I really was not as sharp when we were doing things on Zoom, and I think that Matt pointed that out, that we were all not as sharp doing it by Zoom.
It was hard, it was definitely hard.
Yeah.
Well, you can send them electronic, I'll print it out and bring them over to your house.
Thank you.
Don't make it too big, because do you guys have a clear path of where you're going to go and what you need to finish?
Yes.
Yeah, just no clarification. Questions 21 through 26 on the 2-page questions there?
Yeah.
Those are not applicable?
So you're saying because of
The hydrological assessment?
Yeah.
we just want to know which one you don't need to include, like how to set down so that we sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
So are you said 21 through,
So we need the septic design.
Yeah.
Correct, 21 to 26. We're more than likely to be able to waive.
27.
So item 26, you call up Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife and ask them, and they will tell you about whether you've got moderate or high value wildlife. They do that all the time. That's how they make a living, answering this question. And that cites who you go and, you know, what you're...
So 26, we would like you to call Marine Department of Inland Fisheries.
Will the entire parcel?
for the entire parcel. Understand we're going to take into account that the existing footprint is 2.5 acres.
And 27 as well? Or which of the 27? I just want to make sure.
Yeah, no, 27, I think is also something we can wait for the,
And 28 is.
28, well, if you guys are gonna clear any more property on the 2.5 acres, you would have to answer. But other than that, we could wait for the CUP.
Okay, so just 26, so go through 21 and then 26.
Yes. Look at that, she's on top of it.
We will have everything next time, it has to end next time. So we will have it all ready.
We're trying.
I know.
Well, it's hard for us if we don't meet, except when we meet for 2 hours every week, and
Oh, and I want to be clear, I absolutely appreciate it. I know you guys are volunteers, and I know this is like, thank you for doing it, because you guys are on here, and you know, committed, so I absolutely respect that, and I appreciate your comment. That's, I didn't mean to interrupt.
it's okay.
It's very stressful, that's all.
Well, nothing happens quick, because we always find decisions are made very well if they're made quick, so that's why we do try to be contemplated. But I think we have a plan for you. I think there's a pretty clear plan for you. There's clearly no public opposition, so it's not like you're fighting a bunch of people. You just got to check the boxes. And if it wasn't clear at the start, we apologize, but we didn't even know if we could consider yours until we got that legal opinion, so. And yours is only probably about a month and a half old since you submitted the application.
They're planning any fireworks on the property.
It's a month and a week old, that's pretty quick in our world. I know it's eternity for you guys, but. Anything else that we can accomplish tonight?
Yes.
Yes.
Joe and I produced this notice to post on the Baldwin website about the state statutes.
Yes.
Overtaking our subdivision ordinance definitions. I wonder if we should approve turning those over. Have you read them?
I read it, yes. I don't remember it. I mean, I think we do need to provide a notice.
Maybe-
I'm more than happy to defer to you and Joe if you guys thought it was appropriate. I don't.
Well, maybe distribute it to the rest of the board at the next meeting, we'll decide.
Okay. Yeah, I apologize.
Does that change any of the land use ordinances?
Just the subdivision ordinance.
Just
Yeah, and it just tweaks it a little bit. There's not a lot of huge changes, but like that road thing is one change. The road issue changed as of July 1st, which I think impacts, Wes is going to impact Van Hotel's property on 107 too. Because I think the road change issue, I think if the roads existed prior to 1971, public or private, it's a division. So I think you're right.
there you go.
Why do you say that?
Well, there's no articles.
Excellent. All right, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn,
Seconded.
all in favor?
Thank you,